Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon and today I'm giving my on second thought on Batman Forever. Now this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen it yet, get on it. It's 25 years old this year. Go watch it, come back, and we can talk about it then. So in case you don't know, Batman Forever is the third Batman film following Batman Returns and Batman the movie. It's also the first one that wasn't directed by Tim Burton. It was directed by Joel Schumacher. Instead of Michael Keaton as Batman, it's Val Kilmer, and it's also starring Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. And this film also introduces Chris O'Donnell as Robin. So in case you don't know the plot of this film, Two-Face and the Riddler team up to take on Batman. Batman, however, is joined by his new sidekick, Robin. There's also details in this plot that you could get into, like the fact that Batman accidentally created his nemesis in the Riddler by being a jerk to him, kind of. But the movie doesn't really get into it, so why should we get into it? They obviously don't care, so why should we? So like I said, this is the first one that Joel Schumacher took over as director, so it went in a very different direction than Tim Burton would have. Tim Burton was going to make a Batman 3 with the Riddler as the villain, but he was going to have Robin Williams play him, he was going to have Michael Keaton reprise his role as Batman, and he was going to bring in Marlon Wayans to play Robin. Now obviously none of that happened because Tim Burton got kicked off the project. Now the reason he got kicked off the project was because Batman Returns was deemed too dark by parents and kids weren't allowed to watch it. This also led to a decline in sales among toys, and so Warner Brothers wasn't happy about that either. So long story short, they kicked him out in favor of Joel Schumacher, who had a lot more bright neon colors and family-friendly material. Now once that happened, Michael Keaton said, "No, I'm out of here, I don't want any part of this movie," so they brought in Val Kilmer as Batman. Along with that, they also scrapped the Robin Williams and Marlon Wayans idea and brought in Jim Carrey, who was the big hot star at the time, and Chris O'Donnell. They also added the character of Two-Face to be played by Tommy Lee Jones. And so now the movie set was full of big personalities like Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones and Val Kilmer, and even the director Joel Schumacher is a big personality. In fact, Joel Schumacher and Val Kilmer clashed several times throughout filming, and reportedly Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey hated each other. Supposedly, Tommy Lee Jones didn't take Jim Carrey seriously and said he hated all of his movies. He said he acted like a child on set and that he wasn't a real actor. And I could buy that to a certain extent, except for the fact that Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face character acts more annoying in this movie than Jim Carrey's Riddler does, so maybe he was the annoying one. But regardless, let's get to this review. This movie is very meh. I don't want to say that it's bad because it's not necessarily, but I definitely don't want to say that it's good either. It's like right down the middle, but maybe a little bit more positive than negative, but barely. This movie is honestly like a 5.5 star movie. It's really not great, but it's not awful. There certainly are several good things about this movie, but there's just as many bad things about it too. Like, I actually do really enjoy the Chris O'Donnell casting as Robin. I thought he did a great job in the role, yet at the same time we have this stupid scene of him doing laundry where he's swinging around stuff like that's supposed to be impressive anyway. Maybe 12-year-old girls like that scene, but anybody older and of the other gender probably thought that scene sucked. There's also a lot of stupid one-liners and plot points that are just silly, but it's also enjoyable how carefree this movie was compared to the other two. It's a lot lighter, it's a lot more just of a popcorn movie if you're into that. I don't want to say that that's my favorite kind of movie, but when I was a kid, I enjoyed this movie a lot. And that just goes to show this movie was designed for kids. It was designed with kids in mind. It was designed to sell toys, to get in McDonald's bags. So I can't say that it's a bad movie because it succeeded exactly at what it was trying to accomplish, but what it was trying to accomplish wasn't a highbrow movie. So there's funny bits here and there in the movie that I still enjoy to this day. There's some good acting mixed in there, but overall, this movie is just really silly, really simple, and very kiddie because that's what it was made to be. A lot of times people want to lump this in with Batman and Robin, and understandably so. They're similar in style because it was the same writer and director, but it's honestly not really that comparable because this movie was actually made well. They succeeded in what they were trying to do. Now, was what they were trying to do the right thing for Batman? Maybe at the time, maybe that's what Batman needed, because in the end, we ended up getting Batman Begins in the Dark Knight trilogy, so I'm not mad about it. But it's certainly not a choice that people look back on as, wow, this was a great decision by Warner Brothers or by DC or by Batman. Like I said, the plot of this film has some interesting ideas in it. The whole thing with Batman actually being the reason the Riddler turns bad, that's an interesting plot point. But they don't delve into it at all because this movie was designed for kids, and still they don't want to give you anything too hard to think about. From the designs and from the execution and from everything, it's all obviously aimed at kids. So even when there's some interesting ideas, it's quickly overshadowed by the fact that it's told in a kiddie way. Like, this movie goes over Robin's origin story. That is a very sad story where his whole family dies essentially in front of his eyes. But it's told in such a kiddie way that it doesn't feel like it has any actual weight to it. Instead of sitting there thinking about the fact that his whole family just died, you're more interested in the fact that the countdown on the bomb is wrong. Like, that bomb really should have exploded way before it did, if we're being honest with ourselves. And you can even look at the Two-Face dilemma at the end of the movie to point out how silly this movie is. You have Two-Face about to kill Batman and Robin when Batman reminds him that he didn't flip his coin. Two-Face says, you know what, you're right, I have to flip my coin, I have to do it. And so Batman throws a bunch of coins in the air, which I don't know where he got them from, but regardless, now Two-Face wants to know the outcome of all of the coins combined, so tries to catch them all, doesn't catch any of them, and falls to his death. Batman? It's like it hinted at an interesting philosophical point, and then she said, nah, the bad guy's dead now. So all around with this movie, you can see that it started somewhere with a good idea, but then as the idea developed through different creators and went from Tim Burton's hands to Joel Schumacher's hands, it lost all integrity to it and became a popcorn flick. For kids. There's only so many times you can see Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey gawk at the camera without any substance behind the comedy before you get a little bit tired of it. I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan. I think that he's hilarious. I think he's a great actor, but even in this role, he's not given anything really to work with, so he's just running around being weird. We don't fully understand his motivation. We don't know if he even has a real motivation. We certainly don't understand anything about this version of Two-Face. Nobody seems to know what they're doing, and it's just everybody's just acting out the plot because it's the plot, and we don't even really know why it's happening. And then of course we have a new hot woman lead actress in this movie who's played by Nicole Kidman, who is blank-faced and bland as anything. And then of course her and Val Kilmer have absolutely no chemistry because neither one of them can act at all in this movie. And then Val Kilmer smiles in the Batman suit. You don't do that. Oh, you don't do that to Batman, man. Also, you don't say things like, it's the car, right? Chicks take the car. It's just bad. Like, it's just bad. I know nowadays we would refer to stuff like that as Marvel humor. Well, guess what? This was a DC movie before there was any well-received Marvel movie, and they were doing it. So is it DC humor? Oh, no. A lot of DC fanboys are really panicking right now. Did we start it? So suffice it to say, this movie is overstuffed with fluff. Because it feels like there's a lot going on, there's too much going on, but nothing that is happening actually matters in any way or has any actual substance to it. It's like candy. It is a candy movie. You like one or two pieces, but if you're an adult, you probably don't want more than that because you'll get a cavity and you don't want to worry about going to the dentist and paying all that money. Who has time for that? And then your mouth starts to hurt and you're just in pain. And I don't know where this analogy is going. My point is, it's just a bunch of fluff. I think I've said that enough, but this movie is just a fluff movie, and it doesn't really do anything special or original that nobody else has done. It's not particularly memorable, so if you're going to watch a Batman movie, you would probably watch a different one, and if you want to watch a funny superhero movie, at this point in time, it's not even anywhere close to the top of the best funny superhero movies. There have been millions done that were better than this. I get that it was a different time when this movie came out, but by today's standards, there's so many good movies that are like this that you don't need this anymore. You could watch Guardians of the Galaxy, you could watch Deadpool, you don't need this whatever it was. Yes, there are enjoyable moments, but there's certainly not enough enjoyable moments to make this movie worth rewatching anytime soon. And that's coming from a really big Jim Carrey fan who thought that he was funny in this movie. I don't really need to see anything in this movie again anytime soon. There's like one part in this movie that I actually find myself quoting at all. At all.
Here's a good one.
No. There is a good one.
That's it. That's it, except for the don't kill him part, which doesn't even make sense because why didn't you kill him? I don't know. Like I said, the motivations don't make sense. Nothing in this movie makes sense, and nothing was trying to. It's not a deep movie. You brought in fake philosophical ideas, and then you didn't explore them, and so you just left with a big nothing, and that's what this movie was. An entertaining nothing, once again, if you're like 12, but anything above that, you're probably bored by this movie. So that's what I think. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Also, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.